started so we can get our guest speaker up here as quick as possible. We're going to get started with our pledges, and Mark is going to do our U.S. pledge today.
All right, good morning, everybody. Yeah, everybody please rise, remove your hats, and pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're watching the Saturday Menudo Club?
Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And we're going to have Miss Deborah do our prayer this morning.
Good morning. Had I known I was going to do this prayer, I wouldn't have come straight from the nail shop with wet feet. But I
You look fabulous.
You look amazing.
we can just bow our heads. Father God, a few of your humble servants are called together in your most holy name. Lord God, I ask that you bless this meeting. I ask that you give the information to the people that you desire them to have. Lord God, that I ask that you just continue to get our candidates elected into office, Lord God, so that we don't end up in Sodom and Gomorrah. Lord God, I just pray that you bless everyone here and let everyone have safe travels. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to start off with our main speaker today. Our main speaker is Andy Kahan. Andy Kahan is with crime victims. Andy has served as the victim advocate for the mayor's office and Houston Police Department for 26 years before retiring and joining Crime Stoppers of Houston to assume his career as the Director of Victim Service and Victim Advocacy. Andy Kahan received his Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice in 1983 from the University of Houston. He worked as both a parole and probation officer. I don't mind. Oh, it's still here. Andy Kahan received his Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice in 1983 from the University of Houston. He worked as both a parole and protection officer before becoming the first victim advocate in the country to work in a mayor's office. Some of his responsibilities included working with local crime victims, rights organizations to facilitate the pooling and resources and the exchange of information. In addition, he will accompany and represent victims before the parole board. He also put crime victims in touch with local crime victim support and advocacy groups, in addition to court accommodations. Andy also, in his role as victim advocate, has received national recognition on television and news shows such as the Oprah Winfrey Show, ABC's 2020 Primetime, Dateline, Court TV, Fox News, MSNBC, CBS 60 Minutes, People's Magazine, Crime Watch, Discovery ID, the Oxygen Channel, Time Magazine, and those are just a few. So if we could just give a round of applause to Andy Kahan.
I don't need a mic, right? Good. My name is Andy Kahan. I'm Director of Victim Services, Victim Advocacy, Crime Stoppers of Houston. Just a few things before we get rolling here. Is there anybody here from New York? Anybody ever been in New York City? Okay, what happens if you try to stand still and talk in New York City? I grew up in and around New York City. There's a reason I'm asking this. There's 20 years of habit. You see the podium? Not going to work. So I just walk and talk. I might even hit a ceiling tile or two as well. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. I came down to Houston and now went back up north for obvious reasons here. So I actually was a former parole and probation officer, so I chased Houston's finest for about 8 years before I became the country's first victim advocate to be staffed out of a mayor's office, and that was under Bob Lanier. No other city in the country had done that. My staff consisted of me. They were very subservient, and we got along real well, and my agenda got followed to the T. In my spare time, I refereed high school basketball for 28 years. Never missed a call. True story on that as well. I serve on the board of Parents of Murdered Children and Surviving Family Members of Homicide and Texas EquiSearch. I'm sure you've seen them in the news, particularly up in the Kerr County right now, trying to find people as well. So I've been doing this for quite a long time. So I was with the Houston Police Department, and then Crime Stoppers made me like the Godfather, an offer I couldn't refuse. Just when I thought I was getting out, they lured me back in to start their program. Crime Stoppers of Houston is the largest Crime Stoppers in the country. We're the only Crime Stoppers in the country with its own building. We're the only Crime Stoppers in the country with a schmuck like me that does what I do. So how many people know about Crime Stoppers? Okay. How many people have called in and tipped Crime Stoppers? Good answer. Because you're supposed to be what? Thank you. Good. I actually catch people saying, no, I don't want to know if you called in a tip. Anybody know how Crime Stoppers got started? Kind of a cool story. It was 1981. It was an Albuquerque police officer. And he was frustrated he couldn't get this case solved. And he went to the media, the news. And the news did a story. And guess what happened? Case got solved. And he went, wow, okay, let me do this. And he tried it again. And the case got solved. That was the origin of Crime Stoppers, because one Albuquerque police officer thought outside the box. And that's where it became, that's where basically everything started, doing things like that. So in my work at Crime Stoppers, I do a lot of public policy, and also my previous work as a victim advocate in the mayor's office. So I've been responsible for passing over 25 pieces of legislation during my tenure to enhance victims' rights and public safety. Last session was the most successful session that I've ever had for bills that I worked on, and I've been going up there since 1893, so it's been pretty good for me as well. We got 7 bills passed, and I'll tell you a little bit about them as well. I do an awful lot of work with the media. I have relationships with both local and national. I've been on every possible show that you could possibly imagine, from 60 Minutes to 48 Hours, Dateline, all that stuff. And especially right now, because the true crime industry is booming. And I've done more true crime for Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, Oxygen Channel in the last 2 years than I've ever done in 30 plus years as well. I've done the only show I actually turned down, and that was by choice, was the Jerry Springer show. Well, I was on the phone with a producer, and I thought to myself, you know, do I really want to take this and throw it at people? No, I'll pass on that. But actually, it was interesting. They actually called me about a segment on people who witness executions. So that was actually one of the bills that I got passed way back when we found out victims' families were specifically prohibited by policy. They, along with other inmates, were the only categories of people not allowed to attend the execution. And I thought, this is absolutely wrong to begin with. Victims' families should be able to decide whether they want to be there or not there. So we became one of the first few states. It's now common, but back in 1995 when we pursued this, it was almost unheard of. And I met with a family out of Louisiana. If you've ever seen the movie Dead Man Walking, I met with the victim's family because they actually witnessed an execution. I said, I don't pretend to know. Tell me what it was like. She made me a tape. Back then you made tapes to play before elected officials. And she said, you know, Andy, I didn't want to watch it on the news. I didn't want to read it in the newspaper. I didn't want to listen to it on the radio. That person was the last person to see my daughter alive, look into her eyes and hear her breathe. You're damn right I'm going to be there. So about 75% of people have opted to be present. I've been up to 9. I go with victims' families when they ask me to go as well. Some of the other bills that we got passed, your sex offender registry, that came from us. We always thought that should be public information. And so anytime you look at the registry, you can either thank me or you can condemn me for that as well. And if you get a postcard in the mail from a high-risk sex offender, that came from us as well. So again, you might want to not like me for that as well. One of the bills that we also passed, and this is one thing I tell people doing what I do, and I use sports analogies because that's my background. Going up and trying to craft and change laws, it takes a lot of perseverance, it takes a lot of intestinal fortitude, and kind of like a boxer, you might get knocked around the first few rounds, but I always get back up and I keep engaging in the fight. 1999, I had a case with a family, loved one was murdered, came back, court gave him 10 years probation for murder, which we were stunned that you could actually get probation for murder in the state of Texas. Come to find out, that wasn't the only one. So in 1999, we had a bill that basically says if you're convicted of murder, you can't get probation. I thought that was going to be a no-brainer. 12 years later, 7 legislative sessions, it finally passed. But if we don't keep coming up there and keep pounding and doing things like that, it doesn't happen. Another one that we have, some of these things are so quirky and common sense. You know, my position as an advocate, you know, if anybody can yell and scream about the injustice of the world, I would much prefer to find solutions and or remedies. And one of the ways I do that is I'm a very ominous presence at the Capitol. So this, what I probably in the last few sessions have been concentrating on is bail reform, okay? So let me again pause here before I start talking about bail issues and bail reform. And again, this is just for my information. Is there anybody here currently on bail? Let me rephrase the question. Is there anybody here who should be on bond? All right, good. Actually, funny story. Last month I was going to the courthouse with a family, and I'm going through security, and I'm actually dressed the same way I'm dressed. I go, and the young guy goes, "Sir, I need you to lift your pant leg up." I went, "Why?" He goes, "I need to see if you're wearing an ankle monitor." And I smiled, and the other security guy that knew me, and I'm going, "You know, son, in my 30 plus years, no one has ever asked me if I was wearing an ankle monitor until today. I left it at home. Do you want me to go get it?" So, you got to have a sense of humor doing what I'm doing, or I'd be gone a long time ago. So, in 2018, when I came to Crime Stoppers, I started noticing a trend. And the trend that I started noticing was a lot of defendants who were charged with murder in Harris County were out on what's called a personal recognizance PR bond, which is basically a get out of jail free card, or they were out on more than one felony bond. There used to be an adage in Harris County, and that was one bond per customer, meaning if you were out on bond and you were charged with another crime, especially a felony, you weren't getting back out anymore. That doesn't happen anymore. And I started documenting these cases, and I started keeping a list. And right now I'm up to 218 people that have been murdered by a defendant out on either a PR bond or more than one felony bond in Harris County. And we started talking about this crime stuff. We had a press conference in 2019 with HPD and the District Attorney's Office. And this was October of 2019. It's an important date to remember because we started noticing this before you heard the term COVID. So in other words, when COVID came, COVID became the convenient excuse to blame everything, particularly the rising crime rate. This was happening before COVID. And that's why I talk about the timeline on all that. So in 2021, I worked very closely with Senator Joan Huffman, who I call the architect of bail reform. We had bills up there, and I noticed somebody from Harris County Commissioner's Court was there. And I went up and talked to them. I said, "Hey, glad to see you guys up here." Little did I know they came up to testify against bail reform legislation. And it was amazing testimony that they had. It was going to overflow the jails and all this stuff, and the cost factors that we're going to have by keeping more people locked up. So I followed him up when I testified and said, with all due respect to the person representing Harris County Commissioners Court, you know what I never see people talk about? This cost of victimization. You never hear about that, do you? I said, no one ever talks about that. All we talk about is how much it costs to keep people locked up and so forth. No one ever talks about what families have to go through, and when, especially when someone loses a loved one or someone who's working gets shot and has months of medical bills and then they can't work and things like that. No, you never hear about that. All we ever hear about is the plight of the defendant. So there were about 10 of us testifying in support of that bill, 7 from Crime Stoppers. Over 80 people and organizations were up there against it. Finally, on the third special session, we got it passed, so no more PR bonds for anyone charged with a violent crime in the state of Texas. So if you were thinking about committing a violent crime and thought you were getting a PR bond, again, you can blame me because that's just not going to happen anymore. And as a result of that passage of the bill, our numbers dropped. And you can't argue with the documentation. Our numbers plummeted after Senate Bill 6 went into effect. This session, we got several bills passed involving bail reform. You might have seen the governor at Crime Stoppers multiple times, surrounded by victims' families, talking about the importance of passing bail reform legislation. One of them is a constitutional amendment, and that will go to the voters in November. So Texas voters will make the decision whether judges should have discretion. That's a key word, discretion. Not to grant bonds to defendants charged with certain violent crimes. You might remember the Jocelyn Nungery case that touched the lives of so many people locally, statewide, and nationally, and became an issue in the presidential election as well. People were upset when the judge gave the 2 defendants a bond, because at that time the state had not committed to seeking the death penalty. So the judge, and I tell people, I said, blame the judge all you want, but guess what? He has no choice. You need to give him a choice. That way they're accountable, because frankly, judges can always use that as a crop, as a hook, saying, I got no choice. I have to give a bond. If we pass the Constitutional Amendment, they will have a choice, and they won't be able to use that as an excuse anymore on that as well. The other bail reform bill we passed, the Senate Bill 9, eliminates PR bonds for defendants charged with felon in possession of a firearm, which always bothered me, that you can be a convicted felon and have a gun in your possession and get charged with felony, and then you can get a PR bond. And what was even more disturbing was possession of a prohibited weapon, a machine gun. I have over 50 people charged with possession of a prohibited weapon, a machine gun, who got out on PR bonds. Now, gun violence is the talk of everybody, right? And particularly, anti-gun violence advocates. You never hear a word from them on that. I've asked, Moms Demand Action, will you take a stand? Will you say something about defendants getting out on PR bonds who shouldn't have machine guns, or felons they won't touch it. The hypocrisy of some of it just absolutely makes me cringe on that as well. One of the other bills we got was, there was a very famous case, sadly, of an 11-year-old girl named Audrey Cunningham. And her body was eventually found floating in the Trinity River, actually by our Texas Equity Group, using sonar equipment. The person that was charged and ultimately convicted of her murder, kidnap, and sexual assault, lengthy rap sheet, but at one time he was charged with indecency with a child. That was pled down to enticing a child. Because it was pled down to enticing a child, that meant he didn't have to register as a sex offender. So I got with Audrey's family and I said, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get a bill sponsored. I'm going to name it Audrey's Law. And we're going to get it passed to anybody who's charged or actually convicted of any offense involving child grooming will have to register as a sex offender. So I went up there and testified, and you can probably tell I'm pretty blunt. I'm not there to be nice. I'm not there to make You know, I said, you know what, I get sick and tired of naming laws after dead kids. I said, but that's the reality that we are. And I want Audrey Cunningham to be a catalyst for change. That bill, obviously, was signed into law by Governor Abbott as well. One of the other bills I got up there was about 10 years ago, whatever, victims' families were not allowed or entitled to meet with the parole board prior to a vote. So I was actually at a parole hearing with a family, and the parole board member who I knew, she leaned over to me and she said, you know, Andy, we're just meeting you out of courtesy. We don't really have to do this. And I smiled, and frankly, I don't smile too much. I said, you know what? I'm going to actually get a bill filed, and I'm going to get language stating that, mandating that the parole board must meet with victims' families prior to a vote at the victim's family request. But thank you for pointing out this glitch in the system. And that's how that got passed. So, you know, my position, again, instead of yelling and screaming about injustice, I'm going to find solutions and/or remedies. And that's what I'm about. And as a board member of Parents of Murdered Children and Surviving Family Members of Homicide, which, by the way, is the only organization in the country in which someone else writes out your membership for you. No one has to be part of it. We meet at Crime Stoppers the second Tuesday of every month. Anybody is welcome. Mario's been going for years, and he can tell you about the relationships that he's formed with families. When you advocate on behalf of one faction, you generally infuriate the other faction. And that just comes with the territory. I'm not here. There was when Bob Lanier was a mayor and I was in the mayor's office, there was a reporter asked Lanier at one of the mayor's press conferences about something that I might have done or said that might have offended somebody, which I can't imagine me offending anybody, but it's just. And so they asked him, Lanier, and Lanier stopped and he gave a great line, and I used this quote 30 years later. He turns to the reporter and he says, look, I don't expect Mr. Kahan to please the criminal element. Great line. And that's what it is. I am not going to please everybody. And if I was, I wouldn't be worth a damn. And that's just the way things go. So, yeah, we have enemies. I have a list of hate mail. We, as an organization, Crime Stoppers was viciously attacked by the Houston Chronicle. We had over 4 hit pieces put out on us. We had an editorial put on us. And guess who made the front page of the New York Times in 2022? Crime Stoppers. New York Times sent the reporter down, and actually sent the reporter down under false pretenses to attend a Parents of Murdered Children meeting, pretending he was interested in their stories, when all he was actually doing was trying to find out if we were talking any political stuff during the POMC meeting. That's how devious. So we ended up on the front page of the New York Times, little old Crime Stoppers doing all these, bad things about it. Tongue in cheek, my family has a family-owned coffee roaster business in Florida. It's called King Harv's Imperial Coffee. If you want really good coffee, free shipping, tell them you know. So my brother and I, for fun, we have a label on one of the coffees, and we have no bond coffee. Good to the last bond. Only one bond of cup per customer. So I have a lot of fun with it, doing stuff. The New York Times reporter sent my brother an email wanting to know the origins of no bond coffee and how much proceeds was I receiving from it. My brother called me and goes, what do you want me to do with this email? I said, send them a bag, compliments of me. I go, there is no such thing as no bond coffee, you idiot. It's a label. If there was such thing as no bond coffee, I would have copyrighted. There's no such thing, you moron. That's the extent that they were going, trying to, put things with, to make us look bad as well. In 2023, National Crime Victims' Rights Week, in April, I was at Commissioner's Court, and at that time, there was Commissioner Jack Cagle had a resolution honoring all the different victims organizations, including Crime Stoppers, for their help for input for National Crime Victims' Rights Week. The members of Commissioner Court objected to having Crime Stoppers on that list, 3-2. They had to remove Crime Stoppers from getting a resolution on behalf of National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Yes, that was the other, yeah, and also, as Mario pointed out, when I was trying to inform Commissioner's Court of the things that were going on the bond, I was given the not-so-affectionate nickname, actually we later embraced by Harris County Judge Leanne Hidalgo, who called me an axe-grinding fearmonger. So we actually have axe-grinding fearmonger labels. We have axe-grinding fearmonger coffee. So I appreciate, having that, being called. And yes, I do have an axe to grind on this as well. So that's kind of what we do. We do a thing in September. On Sunday, we have a thing called National Day of Remembrance, in which we honor and pay tribute to all families who lost loved ones to homicide. Mario's been at many of these events. Anybody is welcome to attend. Sunday, September 21st, from 6 to 8 p.m. as well. And then in December, the second Saturday of each month, we do a holiday memorial tree ceremony. We have 4 trees that are decorated with personalized ornaments and pictures of homicide victims as well. So my motto has always been, crime victims are the only unwilling participants in the criminal justice system. Everyone else chose their role, right? Law enforcement, judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, the offender, victim advocates, but no one ever said, pick me, I want to be a victim of crime. So the least we can do is to be looking out for their rights, their due process, and their well-being. So what I try to do is I can't go back and change what happened to you or your family, but we try to make things better for others to come along, and you achieve a lasting legacy. Anybody here ever seen the movie Gladiator? Not the dumb remake, but the original one? Okay, I'll end you with this because there's a quote in the beginning of the movie where Maximus is exhorting his troops in the battle, and he says, what we do in life echoes in eternity. And that's what I try to do as a victim advocate. So appreciate your time. Any comments, questions? I'm available for weddings, bar mitzvahs.
I wanted you to kind of talk about what we kind of shared through text a couple days ago, where this case where we have someone that was convicted, and we have a Harris County judge that is ordering a new trial, but this person had already been convicted.
Yeah, so this has happened not once but twice. And I'm talking about in the last month, last week. So we had one case has been going on for 5 years, aggravated sexual assault, 26-year-old sexual assault victim. First trial was a hung jury mistrial, and they came back and tried him again in April of 2025. And a visiting judge presided over the trial. And it was a jury trial. They convicted him and sentenced him to 26 years in prison. And you would have thought that's the end of the story. That, again, became just the beginning of a nightmare. Within a month, the actual elected district judge of the 263rd granted the defendant's motion for a new trial. Not only did they grant the motion for a new trial, they ordered him released and put back on the bond that he was at. So think about it. Here's some guy that just got 26 years, right? So he knows that he just got nailed by a jury, right? So you're going to actually release him pending another trial now. And I'm going, you can't imagine what this victim is going through. She did everything you want victims to do. She testified, put herself out there, and you finally think you're going to get a chance to resume your life and heal, and you got sucker punched. That was the first one. And then the one last week, the guy got 50 years for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in which he was trying to shoot his wife. And let's be real, he was, when you're trying to shoot somebody, you're trying to kill them. And because they don't die, you get rewarded because you're a bad shot, and you don't get charged with murder on that. That also was remanded for a new trial. He is also back on the streets on bond. So you're going, what do you think about these two guys actually showing back up? What incentive is for them is to go back to court knowing that they just got nailed as well? I've not seen anything like this and I've been doing this for a long time.
And I bet the public defender's office was paying for the lawyers, right?
No, not in one of them.
Not
No.
on- okay,
Yeah,
good.
not in one of them.
That's something.
Yeah, not in one of them. So I just strange things that I'm seeing that continues to go on in certain courts, and that happens to be one of them as well. So,
Is it the same?
yes,
Same judge?
yes,
263.
263rd. Yep.
Well, we probably seen this when it's sentenced, and then the judge resets and lets it out on bond.
Yeah, that
come
was
out
the-
with sentencing.
That was a 248 District Court judge. He had a guy convicted of murder, and he was actually on probation from Jefferson County. And instead of remanding him into custody pending sentencing, they allowed him to remain on bond pending sentencing. And then 4 months go by and they still haven't sentenced the guy. He shoots and kills his girlfriend and then turns a gun on him as well. Yes, that was, I'm going, how do you let someone who's just convicted of murder walk out? And why you're taking over 4 months to determine the sentencing? That's actually will stop effective September. One of the provisions of Huffman's Senate Bill 9 was if you plead guilty to a violent offense, you will be taken into custody if you're on bond awaiting your sentencing. You will not be allowed to walk down the elevator and resume your life pending sentencing. That was the other one. The other one that was part of the bill was, we had one case of a guy who's on parole for aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. He's on parole, and he was charged with a felony, and he was given a PR bond. I'm going, you're on parole for a violent offense. Why are you giving him a PR bond? 6 days after he got the PR bond, he's charged with the murder of a mother of 3. No more PR bonds for anyone on parole who's charged with an offense. You know, terrible, tragic things happen that we have to unfortunately actually make laws to prevent. So, there you go. Yes, sir.
So you talk about the 263rd, the 248. Do we know who is going to be running against those judges? And one of the things I saw in this last election was the judges, the candidates who were running on the Republican side, who could make a really good case against the judge they were running against, were successful, right? The ones who just kind of talked, I want to be a judge, all right? They weren't quite as successful as the ones who actually could go through there and point to, this is what this the conduct of this judge. It helped swing Democrats over because they started to see the conduct of that judge as well. And I'm wondering, how do we take these cases, the things that you're talking about, and put that into the arsenal of some of these judges?
Oh, I mean, they've just been gift wrapped to you. So if I'm running campaigns, you know, for judicial candidates or whatever, you've just been given an arsenal of information that you can provide to the public out there.
Right, but I don't know how effectively all those judges did that, and that's what I'd like to see in this campaign season.
I'm sure a lot of them are up in 26.
Right.
Or
So
was she even opposed?
Well, yeah, that's another thing, but
no,
regardless of...
she's like in the 263rd in 2022 was very close. It was like 50.8 to 49. A lot of them, it was very close election. It was a very close election in a DA's race.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the Republican Party did nothing for Dan Simons.
Right.
Nothing. They just let him, you know, they just, too bad, because imagine if they actually got behind him, you know. So, yeah.
Are y'all monitoring the changes in local rules to implement some of these, some of the provisions in the new bill, like the requirement to make findings of fact when you're making bond decisions?
Yeah, that's where our organization comes in.
Okay. Make sure you monitor some of the rules that they're considering adopting. The state does not have those records in the time frame that they would have to file a rejection. So,
Yeah.
We're doing the PSR, that they have to present it to the safety report,
Mm-hmm.
they have to sign off on
Yeah.
before they set bail. I mean, it's like rubber stamping it though. That's what I noticed is going.
No, it's going to be, like I said, once September kicks in and assuming the constitutional amendment gets passed, it's going to be very interesting. Because a lot of the PR bonds, quite frankly, swearing in those are being granted by magistrates who are unelected. We have no idea who they are. That's what we've been doing the majority. If you ever get a chance to watch our Breaking Bond series that we do on Fox News every single week, usually on Monday night, sometimes Tuesday. And we've been doing that series now for 5 years, which is unheard of in TV news, to be doing a weekly segment on the same topic for 5 years. But here we are. Yep.
Is Crime Stoppers anonymous tips only for things that you guys are looking for, or is it for anything that is seen? Because, you know, like some people, they don't want to come forward for, you know, for fear of, you know, like reprisal or something like that. But if there's something going on that they don't want to go to the police for, do y'all take that kind of information?
Yeah. Our third floor is staffed by law enforcement. And everything is anonymous. You can call, you can submit an email to our hotline. We have a mobile app in 20 languages. And it's so anonymous that we actually did a news story in my office because people will call and leave me messages and I'm like waiting for like your phone number and they don't leave it because they think I have caller ID or whatever. So we actually did a segment where you watch my phone ring and you don't see the number pop up on that as well. So, yes, ma'am.
I had a question regarding, you mentioned potential information that can be used to get like statistics and data of crime maybe happening throughout Harris County. What would be your advice to get that information? Is it free? Is
Yes.
it a payment or?
No, we actually, if you go to our website, we have a research center and you can pull up, you know, all the crime data, everything that you want from that as well. So.
And the website is?
Crime Stoppers. Yeah, crimestoppers.org.
Andy,
I always say the number, you figure it out.
Andy,
Yeah,
That was that's the Glenda Morty,
Yeah.
gave us that. I would like to say, if you want to take a look at it, Crime Stoppers recently revamped it, so it's a lot, very user-friendly, very comprehensive data.
yeah, that's who I rely on because a lot of times my open records requests either get rejected or I get some opinion requests.
Have you noticed a trend in the county seeking less capital death penalty punishment cases and the sentences being lower?
There's a trend of seeking death that started, you know, back in 2016. You know, and it's not just in here, but it's all over. And mainly because you now have what's called LWAP, which is life without parole. Life without parole made a lot of the seeking death kind of a moot point when you get that as well. So it's happening all over. Yes, sir.
And I recently attended the candlelight vigil for the 2 grandfathers that were brutally murdered. And we had several representatives from the Saturday Menudo Club there. But my question to you is, how can we as a club for the Hispanic community somehow get involved or do more so that, number one, that horrible case is not forgotten, which it already kind of is. And we want to keep that fresh in the memory of the community, and we also want our city council people to understand that we're still waiting for some kind of word that we're safe, and we haven't gotten that word. So how can we as the Menudo Club do something to keep
One
that
thing,
word?
we have a new organization that's just started, and it's called Texas Crime Victims United, TCVU. And it's headed by Paul Castro, April Aguirre, and several others that a lot of people probably are familiar with their names. I would simply get with them and say you want to join with them. And that way you're part of that, because that's something that they're going to be, you know, doing. So, yeah.
Can you say one more time, Texas?
Crime Victims United, TCVU. Kind of like one of your iCards when you read, TCVU.
What's the phone number for your office?
713-222-TIPS. And let me know when you call, so I'll let them know who you are. I'll cut you in for a piece of the pie. Hey, we paid the largest reward 2 years ago, which was $100,000
Wow.
to one tipster.
Wow.
Whoever that person is. And that was the grotto shooting by Galleria. Yeah, somebody got 100 grand. So we pay out.
This is Cousin Kahan calling to
Yeah, actually, so a lot of times, sometimes people call, they don't want the money. It's very nice as well. So those we just want, you guys to be aware, we don't want the money as well. All good?
All good. So yeah, I think it's so important for, especially this election coming up, that we get our judges in there. We made a little advance the last election with some judges in Harris County, but I think we really need to push for new judges. And again, we live in a time where the media and the left are on the side of the criminal, and we as grassroots know that we have to defend the victims. So again, nosotros no somos como ellos. We are not like them. Our next candidate is, our next speaker is actually is running for governor, and he will actually be talking a little bit more about the special session that is going to start on Monday at the Texas House. So everyone, welcome Mark Goloby.
Thank you, Liz. Good to see everybody this morning or this afternoon now, so glad y'all can make it. Before I get into that, I did want to go through there and talk about something that we worked on with Cherry Tree Republicans. And this is a very exciting tool that we built. And you can go, I'll have some of these to hand out, but there's a QR code that you can go to. The QR code will take you straight to our website, a link that has all the college conservative groups that we've been able to collect so far, and the colleges they're at, and the contact that is there for them. So when you had a college-bound child, right, either a freshman or even going back to school, right, and they want to know where is a conservative group on the campus I'm going to, they can go to the website and they'll find, oh, okay, hey, they're going to San Angelo State, here's Texas conservatives, all right, young Republicans or whatever, okay? And here's a contact person, and I can call them up and say, hey, I want to come to your college and I want to join your club. So we all know that the universities have a lot of liberal bent to all of them, okay? And there are conservative groups. There's a Young Conservative of Texas at the U of H, all right? And they kind of have to stay undercover, but this gives them a tool that allows them to go through there and let people know, hey, we do have a conservative group, we have conservatives on campus, and here's where they meet. It also goes through and gives out lists. So if you go here to the website and you don't see your college right there, then you go through there and we have contacts for these groups, their main contacts, so you can call them up and say, hey, I'm going to go to this college, there's nobody there, I'm going to start a chapter. So it's going to be a two-way street. These organizations have a hard time recruiting the students, getting out there and recruiting. This gives a tool. So it's a great two-way street of kids being able to contact the conservatives and the conservatives group to get active people to come in and register to be part of their club. So, like I said, we have that. We're real excited about it, and it's a unique tool that we've made, and we want to see it expanded. We want to see more colleges, more groups on it. But right now, and we go outside Texas, we have some LSU and Oklahoma on there too. So you can take a look at that QR code. And so now, yeah, we have a special session, starts on Monday, and they're all wrapping up and getting there. We don't know if the Democrats are going to show up or not. I kind of think they will, because there's a lot of important things that they need to be looking at too. And of course, we have the flood warning system. So there are a lot of issues here. The first three are basically in response to the horrible situation that occurred up there in the Hill Country, the Guadalupe River, the Frio River, etc. And you know, that's a very important. I think sometimes I wonder if there's a little bit of the local government's not building and putting things in place that they should have. Because if you go through Comfort, Texas, did have a warning system. It did go through there, and a lot of people were able to get out of harm's way. So hopefully these things will bring focus and put some of these solutions out there. Next is eliminate the STAR test, okay? And I'm always curious about eliminate because we're not really talking about eliminating, right? They're talking about replacing. And now that we've gone through, we've had this school choice thing, these other things, I really wonder the efficacy of these tests that they put out there. As do they really represent, and do they really provide anybody needed data? Other than the stress that they put on the teachers, who then put the stress on the students, okay? How much are we actually using this data? The rating system that the TEA has used for a long, long time, it's floating back and forth. They move the goalposts around. They keep, you know, lower the bar and the bar. So to me, those are things that I look at. I can tell you as a candidate for governor, right? One of the things that I'll be advocating is that the Texas Education Commissioner be an elected position. Right now, it's an appointed position. When you look at the public school system, there's dissatisfaction everywhere. So the current commissioner has been there for 10 years. If public education in Texas, right, is a mess, right, then the guy who's been running it for 10 years should be held accountable for it. And at this point in time, he's not. If he was elected, if this was an elected position, think about somebody going around the state of Texas saying, vote for me for your education commissioner, I'm going to keep filthy books in the schools, all right? That's not going to be a winning proposition. So having somebody go up there and campaign on how can I get rid of these kind of filthy books, we'd be asking, get rid of them, get rid of them, get rid of them. And so those are the things to me that elected representation. When I ran for comptroller, I said we need to have elected representation on our appraisal district board of directors, right? Well, we've got it, right? And good questions across Texas are being asked about how does this appraisal system work? Now that we've got taxpayers on there, right, who are actually advocating for the taxpayers as opposed to the people who are always just advocating for the tax collectors. So that's good. We're going to cut property taxes. Here again, we get into the cut property taxes, and a lot of that is based again because we have this big corporate welfare system, right? They go through there and all these corporations and these companies get exempted off of the property tax rolls. So that, again, this would be like in this restaurant, right? If y'all were going to pay here and y'all don't show up, but two of you say, hell, I can't pay, Mario, pick the tab. And that's what's happening to us, right? Right now is when the tax bill comes due, the corporations, these other people, jump up and leave, and leaving us and the small business people with these tax bills. So, you know, when they talk about cutting property taxes again, they don't. What they're talking about is taking your over-collected tax money, quote-unquote surplus, right? All right? And they're going to give it back to you by paying down your property taxes, okay? So they're not really giving anybody, there is no property tax relief, they're just shifting it from one pocket to the other, right? Again, if you go to my website, if you look at what I'm talking about doing, is an actual sales tax cut. This is a cut. This is a real reduction in your tax bill. It's not taking property taxes from one pocket to another, or we're not going to pay it here, we're going to pay it this way, we're going to pay it that way, okay? And I'm doing the math right now, and I can tell you right now, we can drop 0.5% off the sales tax, right? And they wouldn't even miss it. $7 billion wasn't even used, right, from the last legislative session to this legislative session, right? They don't even need it. And that $7 billion, guess what that happens to be? That happens to be about 0.5% cut in the sales tax. So we can afford it. We earned it. We deserve it, okay? So we can cut the sales tax rate. Let's see. Protect children from the THC and regulate hemp. This is, as you all know, very, very controversial. A lot of issues involved. I hear, I'm sure you all hear the same things, is, you know, marijuana is, you know, the next step from hell, right, to it's the next step to nirvana, okay, and it cures everything, right? And trying to just disseminate what that truth is difficult, all right? And you have advocates on every side, passionate advocates on every side. I look at that, the THC and the marijuana stuff, and I look at the ways that we regulate cigarettes and the ways that we regulate alcohol, okay? Alcohol production, alcohol distribution. I was up in Kentucky for a long time and on projects, and in there I got to look at where they grow the tobacco.
it's very, very regulated, okay? I mean, they know who has, how many acres of tobacco you can grow, right? Who can grow it, how they can grow it, when they can grow it, where they can grow it, okay? And guess what? It becomes self-policing. Because if I get, I don't know, if I get 100 acres that I can, and my neighbor gets 100 acres as well. But I've noticed that he happens to take that furrow just a little bit on the outside. So he's actually going through and growing more tobacco, right? I call up and I report it. So to me, I look at how we regulate cigarettes, how we regulate tobacco, alcohol. You can't go through there and make alcohol and get all that down and distribute it. You got all these different layers, right? Of who makes the alcohol, who can then take it and distribute it, who can then go through and actually deliver it. It's a very complex, the tobacco group here in Texas is very, very strict, okay? We do I think a good job, all right, at keeping cigarettes, right, and alcohol away from kids, right? I'm not going to say they don't get it, okay, right? But the point is that there are a lot of regulations that go through to keep it. And I'm looking at this THC, I'm looking at this huge debate, I'm looking at the two sides, the two factions that go back and forth, and think, well, maybe what we need to do is start looking at this more of what kind of standards, what do we want to allow, all right? And then regulate it just like we do these other somewhat controlled substances. So we'll see what they decide. It's kind of interesting to me that Dan Patrick went through and did a $500 million subsidy for movies, right? And one of the guys on it is Harrelson. And what does Harrelson do? Harrelson's got a big picture with him and Bill Maher opening up a marijuana shop in California. And then at the same time, they say, oh, we're going to get rid of marijuana. You sit there going, wait a minute, now you're going to give $500 million to this guy who's opening marijuana shops in California. Could you tell us what side you're on, Dan? I mean, he's on both sides of the fence. I need some help. Let's see here. Protect the unborn child. More and more that we can do on that is always important. Again, the way my approach to that has been that we've done a great job on, and we can do more, okay? But at the same time, one of the things I look at is we need to start looking at our adoption and our foster care system. So we're bringing these wonderful little lives to fruition, right? We need to get them into foundational, structural homes as soon as possible in their little lives, okay? Because one of the things that I found as I've started to dig into this is that these kids, and our goal would be to eliminate the children at 11, 12, and 13 who require fostering. Because right now, that's where these kids are on pipelines to prison. It's a very, very difficult situation for these kids. They're 11, 12, and 13 years old. They may have been into 26 different homes. Some of these kids pack their clothes in garbage bags and then they go from house to house. It's very tough. And they have a lot of issues. And many of them then become, guess what? They repeat the process. And they're back on the streets and they're living. We need to go through there and figure out how, again, we can look at things. I worked on some legislation this session, but we need to look on how we can affect and do better, okay, for these foster children. So I'm all for the protecting the unborn children and helping out after they're born. Now let's take about now after they're born. Let's start taking some steps to address that. Protect the human trafficking victims. Again, hopefully now that the borders closed, we'll start to see less of that and start getting our hands around it so that our law enforcement can begin to address this and fix this, because the whole human trafficking thing is just disgusting. Police personnel records, again, this is protect the law enforcement officers. Yes, all right, as we saw with the people who are doing the ICE guys, right? They feel like they need to wear masks, right? Because they're being targeted. Their families are being targeted, right? This is a currently, as we talked about earlier up here, right? I mean, there's a strange group of people in this country that they're not even, I don't even know what their motivations are, okay? Except for just being evil, right? And we need to go through there and start to stand up to these people and say, we don't want this kind of evil in our country. We don't want it, and we're going to get rid of it, and we're going to expel it. This is another, protect equal women's spaces. It's hard to believe we have to go through and do this. And this is something that, to me, I asked, we were talking about earlier about this, was, okay, men, please, can't we start defending our women? Right? What is this? It's absolutely crazy to me, and somehow we want to defer, well, you know, women's liberation. No, okay? We tried this path, it's not good, it's not working, right? I was watching something with Charlie Kirk, who's over in England, right? And he was talking about how unhappy women are. They're all unhappy. All the women in the Western, right? In the Western state are unhappy. Mainly because there's nobody there defending them. There's nobody there sitting there putting women the honor that they deserve, right? Of being a woman. And you know who does that? Men. And guess what? There's no such thing as a half man, half woman, okay? You're a man and you're a woman. And you can go through there, like I say, some of these people go in there and they get these operations, and the next thing you know, like a Christmas tree, they got every ornament hanging off of them, okay? That stuff's got to stop. That's just transmorphic plastic surgery. This is nothing more, and people are starting to realize you're not really helping the psychology of the individual who needs help, right? They obviously have issues. They obviously need to be addressed. But what do the doctors do? It's more lucrative to sit there and tell them they need these surgeries and all these drugs and everything else. That's a lot more lucrative. To me, the whole process needs to be outlawed, but that's a whole other thing. Let's see, redistricting, okay, that's going to be fun, right? Peter was talking to me about this, so the redistricting will be a very huge undertaking. I guess the maps have finally been released, so there are some maps out there. This is where they feel like the Democrats might go through there and try to break the quorum. I don't think they will. There's no advantage to them for that. They may be using that as a ploy to extract more from the Republicans. We won't break the quorum if you, I don't know, give all our vice chairs another $10,000 out of the budget or something. Who knows what they'll do. See, title theft and deed fraud. This again is back into some of the more weedier things that we talk about. But again, people are losing their titles to their houses stolen, and so it's just a matter of doing some housekeeping and legislative things to tighten up, right? Those access to those files and being able to take them over. Water projects is something. In fact, I talked with Sid Miller. Water is a big issue, and I take exception when we keep asking these companies. We keep paying, we keep subsidizing companies to come here. They want to come here and make money. They want to come here and be business. We want them here. We want them to be prosperous. But don't come in here and tell me, wait, we don't want to help you with your water. We don't care about that. We don't care about your electricity. We don't care about your needs for good highways, right? We just want to come here. You pay us to be here. We'll make a bunch of money, and then we'll take it back to Bombay or Beijing or wherever we're from. That's not healthy. That's not economic. They call it economic development. It's not economic development, right, when the taxpayers are having to subsidize these type of activities. So on the water incentives, there are a couple of things they're looking at. Of course, a lot of desal. One of the things I've been asking is that, okay, in the oil and gas industry, we have what we call saltwater disposal. This is where we take the salt water that's produced from the well and actually re-inject it back in the ground. And in some cases, this proved to be kind of bad because you create some earthquakes and some other things. They really ran into some issues up in Oklahoma where they really were creating some shakes in the ground because you've got this ground that's down there in 10,000 feet under the earth, okay? And it's locked tight. And you got these rocks and gravel in there keeping it locked. You mean you start to put water down there and start moving the rocks around, those things start to shift. And that was creating some problems, right? You're familiar with the issue with the earthquakes we had. So, but the bottom line is if we can go through there and we know how to do this, is there a way to now sequester this fresh water? When we have these floods, instead of just running down and running into the ocean, right, is there a way to capture it and sequester it, kind of like aquifers, all right? But these would be man-made type aquifers that we can have. And then the state judicial department, this is related to operations of the judicial department in the state government. These are all things that, again, these are again, some of the finer points, right, of just state governance and things like that. There's been something like 80 bills, I think even more now, that are registered, and I don't see I don't know how much of those bills are being put in genuinely and sincerely, and how many are being put in to grab headlines and say, I introduced this bill. Because when you look at that list of things that the governor wants done in 30 days, right? Now you're going to add another 80 bills on top of it to get the hearings and everything else. I don't know why they do this, and I don't know how many of those will ever get heard. Like I said, every district is going to be a huge issue. It's going to be it's difficult when they do it over every 10 years. You go through that process, so it's going to be even more so now. So those are what's on the agenda.
Mark, going back to your district, I know that President Trump has actually talked to some of the Texas officials, and he is looking for 5 new seats. What do you think we'll get up? Do you think we'll?
Well, yes. I mean, I think they can redraw. He wants 5 new seats, but when we talk about, remember when they did this the first time, right? It was all about red or reds and blue or blues. Red or reds and blue or blues. Oh, that's how we're going to solve our issue. We're going to have red or reds and blue or blues. Okay, which we did, right? And that's why people like Caroline Kane, right? Kay Smith here, right? Claudio, right? All these, they try to get in these districts. They can't get help from the Republican Party because, hey man, why are we going to help you? That's a blue district. We drew it blue. We did it blue for a reason. So we're not going to, your district, right? We drew it blue for John Rosenthal. We're not going to sit there and make room for you, okay? So that's a problem. So I like the idea that we're going to go through there, right, to start making more kind of purplish. But that means that we've got to work to win. We got, if it could be 5 more, right? But we are going to have to make sure that we work out there to get those 5 Republicans elected, because there are going to be more purplish districts, all right? And so that's going to behoove us as the grassroots, which I think will be good. Because now the Republicans are going to have to come back and say, hey, we really do need those block walkers. We really do need those people. We really may want to have to listen to them, right? Yes, ma'am.
Where would we find the redrawn maps?
Yeah, I have a comment on that. So right now, if you go into the Texas Legislature website, there's a hyperlink. For the redistricting maps. So right now, there's a map right now from the Gallup Poll Association, which is the Gallup poll. They published the first map. So there will be more maps as it goes. Now, I don't know which map is going to be the one that the Trump administration have proposed. If they hire a consulting firm to prepare the line. So right now, we just have one map published. So me, I'm running for the 9th district, so I'm have a true interest in this mapping. So I'm on edge right now to see how the line's going to be redrawn. So is they dropping as they go? Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you.
Yeah, and there'll also be issues as far as then what will lawsuits follow. So I think we're already in a lawsuit now on the old one, right?
Yeah,
right. And so now you're going to go through there. There'll be more lawsuits. So what will we be voting on in March of 2026? That's a hard one to say.
I have a comment on a couple of things that you said. One, about the STAR test being eliminated. I was one of the people back in the late 80s that went to the legislature and got them to implement the TOS test. And the TOS test was implemented because we had children, especially African American children, who were going to college, #1 in their class, and couldn't do any of the college level work. That's when we all discovered that we had something called a watered down curriculum. All right, for right now, and they've done a whole bunch of stuff. It was done because they didn't want the kids to be educated and wanted the factory jobs because they were going to China, but that's another story for another day. So now our children cannot read for comprehension, and I can't stand it when I hear people say, oh, it's our economically disadvantaged children. No, the little darling that lives next door to me can't read either. So I say this, if they can eliminate the test and they can replace it with whatever, what needs to happen is you need to go out and start electing your school board. What you got to understand about people that run for the school board, they can be just your average decent neighbor, and that person gets elected because they are just a good person, and they get there with those demons in these administrations, and they corrupt them. So you're going to have to do your due diligence on finding your school board members, because that's where that starts. Second thing I wanted to comment on, and a lot of people think this is a joke or something. When you said about stealing the people's deeds.
Right, yes.
My Aunt Sarah is 97 years old, and she lives in Maryland. Our home is our home. Aunt Sarah's home is a National Historical Landmark in Maryland. My crackhead cousin went down to the wherever you go in Maryland to get the deeds changed. He got this form from the internet. He filed it and tried to evict Aunt Sarah. She's 97, y'all. Well, except she was 95. And my sister called me up and she goes, I was like, girl, give me a break. Get off my phone. This is stupid. She goes, no, sis, I'm serious. This is going on right now. The sheriff is there to evict Aunt Sarah. And she's like, who do you know? Oh, I'm in Houston. Let me think about this for a second. So I happened to know somebody, called them up, told them to stop right now. We flew up there. I flew up there, and we actually had to do a temporary restraining order to stop them from evicting Aunt Sarah because that house belongs to her. And it was a pretty, it cost quite a bit of money to get Aunt Sarah back in her house because my cousin did this one little thing. People are doing it all over town. Sometimes if you're bored, just look up, pull up your deed and make sure it's still in your name. So some of this stuff is just not a joke. The last thing I want to say is when we're talking about bond reform and all that kind of stuff, you guys should sign up to be on a grand jury. You need to be on a grand jury because number one, you don't know if you're ever gonna go before a grand jury. I was on a grand jury one time, and I think I've been banned from down there because I thought that some of the things that they did were so ridiculous. You're charging someone as being a cocaine distributor, but you catch him with 0.25 grams of cocaine. And I just couldn't get that amount out of my head. So, and that was back before they had Google. And I was drinking coffee and I looked, it's a sweet and low pack. So how in the world can you traffic a sweet and low pack? That was stupid. Sometimes you got folks that don't like you. If they can tell the right story, they can get you into a whole lot of trouble. So if you got, a good mind, a clear conscience, and you're a decent person, you truly need to go down there and sit on that grand jury and see some of the money that's being wasted and how some of our poor citizens are going through hell over something that means nothing. So I'm done. Oh,
question?
It was just a question, when you were talking about foster children and adoption and things like that, who actually advocates to change that? Do you go through Austin? Is there law changes? Is it more like administrative within the CPS system? Who takes care of that?
It's a lot, okay?
Yeah,
It's all in the BFPS type deal, but there were a number of laws. There were about 100 laws just in foster care and adoption. So it is getting a lot of attention, which I think is very good. We had Senator Colcourse had a bill to go through there and create a more standardized treatment right across the state. I was in a meeting with Middleton and some of the foster care, and one of these off the cuff, right? This foster care person just sits there and says, "Yeah, well, you get a child get treated completely different, right, between Fort Bend and Harris County. Same foster care system and everything else, and they're going to get a completely different how their case goes." And these kids go everywhere. There's a kid here in Houston, hadn't been here for 2 years with his family. Somehow they found a family member, okay, the foster family in Houston, a family member, and they pack up and send this kid down into Harlingen. So now, if he's in Harris County getting treated one way, he goes down to Harlingen, they have different policies. So she had that. Toth had a deal about bringing more, and I think this is part of the course is going to be very, very important today. More faith-based type adoption foster care. I think that's where this kind of needs to start being pushed. Get them more involved in this, get more of the faith-based type, because they're the ones, when you start looking at this, I've dug into it, every case is different. I mean, you got a different mom, a different dad, and a different child, and all of them have different circumstances. A state can't make policy for every single individual, and a state can't make policy for every circumstance. They have to just do this level. But that's where your faith-based, that's where your charities, that's where your fraternities and sorority type groups, all right, can go through there. They can take the time to individualize that care, right? The state can't do. And then we had try to get a 60-day, this is a deal with the baby boxes, all right, and the surrendering. So we try to get that extended. The mother only has like 2 months, right? So you got a mother who's in kind of a dire circumstances, right? She's got to make this decision to surrender her baby in the first 2 months. After that, she's got to go through all kinds of other. So we're trying to get that pushed back to a year, so that, because if you look at it, it's about what, 7, 8 months the baby starts to crawl around. So the mom can think, well, I can take care of this, I can do this, I can do this. Well, that baby starts scooting around the house, you start to get into things. That's when you start, well, I don't know if I can, I don't know. I love my baby, I want my baby to have the best, okay? But I can't do this right now, right? So this would give her the opportunity beyond those 2 months, 60 days, to be able to sit there and surrender her child and get them, again, into a strong foundational home to raise that baby up. Because I look at it, I kind of go, you know, there's a physical reason we should be looking at this from the state level. When these kids are 11, 12, and 13 are in the foster care system, they're expensive. They're expensive for the state. They're getting into trouble. They're getting into situations. There are a lot of issues going on there, right? If we can go through them and have them in foundational homes, right? Quicker, sooner, we can turn them into more productive citizens for Texas, more prosperous for everyone. Yes, ma'am.
Isn't a lot of the problem the difficulty and the expense of adopting a child? That's where the change needs to take place, because people can go to China or Russia or somewhere else and adopt a child for a third of the cost, a tenth of the cost, and half the time. Where over here it takes years and years and years and expense that people just can't afford.
Yes, okay. Then Schatzline had a bill, and Milton co-sponsored a bill trying to go through there and look at relief for that. If you go through and you look from a foster care system, okay, you can actually go through there and adopt from the foster care process. And I mean, the kid will have his college paid for. I think you get access to Medicaid, some other things, okay? So if you go through there and you adopt there, now if you go to the private adoption agencies, that becomes that does become expensive, and that can become. So I think that we need to look at how can we work this, because right now, if they go through there and a baby gets surrendered, okay, then they're going to go through there, CPS or has, the mandate is we're going to find a family member. You know, and I agree. I mean, it's important that children have, you know, a relationship with their family. But in some of these cases, right, these families are part of the root of the problem, all right? So, we have to go through and get them back. Well, I don't know. That doesn't really break the cycle. And I'm not saying a mother shouldn't have a relationship or have the ability to have a relationship with a child, okay, at some time. But right now, at those first 5 years, which is the most critical, you go through and you look at all the child psychology, those first 2 years, right, of that bonding, of that sets a very strong foundation for that child to grow and prosper. And we need to be thinking about these things and addressing and seeing what we can do as far as how can we help get these children, like I said, the private adoption aspects of it, that gets to be kind of a different deal. And some of these people, they act like they're going shopping, you know. Oh, I want this, and I want that, I want a blonde hair, and then no, you're not. You're trying to take a kid and raise them up. Why do you have to be so picky about that, okay, when you're trying to elevate a young child who's going on a trajectory, downhill trajectory, okay? And let's get them into, again, nurturing foundational homes to grow. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, we've discussed this before, and I keep praying that you add this to your advocacy for when you're talking about children and adoption and foster care. I've mentioned to you before that with my organization, SNAP, we've done 30 years of research, and we have the research, of course, with victims of sexual abuse that tell us that those children that have been abused as young kids are very, very likely to grow up either with drug addicts or alcoholics or committing suicide. What we seem to have forgotten about is that we have over 100,000 children that have been lost through the Biden administration here in the United States. These are little children as young as 2, 3, 4 years old that were given to strangers that had to go through a journey, some of them 3,000, 4,000 miles with total strangers, being abused, coming to a land where they don't speak the language, and now we have lost them. And our politicians don't seem to think that that is a problem. It is not a problem right now, but as they grow, they're growing with PTSD. So in like 7 or 8 years, as they become young adults, we're gonna know where they are, because they're gonna be causing a lot of problems for us. And if you wonder what that's gonna be like, it's gonna be just like the veteran situation that we have here. We're gonna have a new wave of citizens with PTSD, causing problems, becoming drug addicts. I don't understand, Mark, why no one is paying attention and no one seems to care about these lost children, some of which are going to end up in the foster care system.
As far as I know, like I say, I mean, Trump is doing a lot to try to find those lost children, all right? But they are lost, and the Biden administration did lose them, okay? And so, just locating and finding them and getting them out of that cycle is, you're right, that's a tough challenge, and we need to be addressing that. And when you look at all these children, I mean, we have children who age out of the foster care system, okay, without a GED or without a high school diploma. I look at myself, I go, I failed, right? How do I go through there and have a system of foster care and the kids can't even get out? I mean, they're basically unemployable. Now, there are people who give. Private type organizations are taking these children, right, and they're starting to build programs to help them become adults, right? They're 18 or 19 years old, but they're not really adults, okay? They're not ready to take on adult responsibilities that we need them to take on to be successful. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. In fact, even now, the kids, they age out, they're on, even now with what we have, we know what we have, right? They age out, no high school diploma, no prospects, drugs, sell themselves on the streets or whatever, and now we're back in the same situation. Now she's having a baby, and now we're starting the whole thing all over again with a whole set of foster care potentials.
One of the things you just said just struck me. I probably have never thought about it before, but they age out at 18. Those are kids. They can be on their parents' insurance if they're inheritance until 26. Wouldn't that be something that our law should address, that they don't age out at 18 when they're a kid? They age out at an older age. That is something that can be done.
I've asked that question because one of the things that I said is that is there a way we could say you can't age out until you have a high school diploma or a GED, all right? You can't, you won't qualify to be aged out, all right? And a lot of these kids want to get out of the system, all right? And then you have the foster care parents who want to get them out of the system, okay? And so I looked at it as an incentive, right? This would incent both the kid and the foster parent to get them that GED or that high school diploma. And I had state reps look at me and go, how do I tell an 18-year-old, right? They're full-blown, they're majority,
They're
right?
optional. They can leave if they want. But right now, I know an 18-year-old who's on the street because he aged out.
Yeah, no. There are facilities there. I mean, we have some resources because there are places that can go that can take them and try to bring them up to speed, get them the GED and all those kind of things.
So I know there's a lot of kids out there who are basically in the foster care system. What happened to their families? Like, how do we bring, what's going on with families? Is the state, you think, doing enough to keep families together? I mean, we seem to be advocating for single moms and, making sure that everybody, the thing is that these children are going to end up in a bad way. If you look in prison, like almost 9 times out of 10, the people that are in prison come from single mom households. So what's going on with our civilization where we can't identify that problem and try to help that out? What is it that we can do? What do you suppose is going on? Because these foster children, these foster care situations, they come from broken homes, and we're trying to treat a symptom instead of treating the root cause.
Well, you're absolutely right on that point, and to me, one of the things that and there are foster facilities that do try to go through there, and mole families. There's a group down there in the medical center called Forge for Families. Forge, Forge, okay? And so that's what they try to do, is go through there and help and heal families and get families into strong familial roles that we all kind of take for granted, right?
But the state, it seems like the state has a problem that isn't even being identified. Like nobody's talking about the fact that our family units are being destroyed. Somehow, I don't know, it's just like, it hasn't been politically talked about so much. We're talking about children, but what about, let's try to keep people together.
No, I mean, hey, you're absolutely right. One of the things when I was going through, the legislature's trying to get this 60 days extended, right? One of the things people start to ask me, well, what about the father's rights? I'm going, you know what? If there was a father involved, right, that'd be great, right? Most of the time, that's not the issue, right? The issue isn't a father who wants to be involved, okay? Most of the sentences, and that's a problem. Again, that's men need to take responsibility for where they go through and do what they do, right? We have to go through there. We cannot continue, right? If we want a strong society, right, men have to step up, get off of your, we talked about it earlier, right? I can't remember with who, but anyway, get off of your fantasy football, and I pick on my son-in-law about it, so, all right, it's family, right? Get out of your fantasy football and get involved. Get involved in the community, get involved, find those families, find those people, and start going through there and mentoring. You're right. We're a sick society, right? And some of the things that we're dealing with are the symptoms, right, of getting to the root of the sick society.
We have men that are just not able to find a job. We have men right now that would like to provide for their family, but they can't. Or they have criminal records, and once you get a criminal record, that's it.
That's it, yeah, that's the idea.
I mean, in speaking of that, there's really not one answer because it spans across several issues, families. I've seen an uptick because I deal with crime and criminals and bonds and all that. And what I started to see over 18 years was a pattern. The pattern you see is that people, number one, there's a generational disconnect of people that can't cope the way we can cope, depending on what generation you come from. Fantasy football, things that just people get bent out of shape. So the coping skills are not there. I don't know how you implement better coping skills, but too many people are anxious over things that are like, hold on a second, calm down. It's really not that bad. Because I get those defendants too, to freak out. But I've also seen a big uptick of people who have abused a lot of drugs, fentanyl, Xanax. People that were born with perfectly good brains that have somewhere become fried. And now those are the people that are now mental health cases. They weren't born that way, let's be clear. That was an abuse. I got a brother like that. I got a couple of cousins like that. These are guys in their 40s that are not employable because they cannot function. They can't go to jobs. They can't show up on time. They can't get along with their coworkers. So there's an uptick of that as well. Someone who's been to jail, myself, I was a paralegal criminal civil. I've been to jail 5 times. I'm now a bondsman. I've been a bondsman. So I've been on every side of it. And what the most dangerous thing with the criminal justice system and criminal and bail reform sold was victimization. That's dangerous because you have to be held accountable at some point. I'm not saying we should bury people under the jail, but what I'm saying is that there should be a program that goes along with that defendant on probation, not these mass dismissals that they're giving and they're out and no consequence for the behavior. So it's multi-pronged.
Yes. It's societal. It's
the society stuff, the children, yeah. There's a lot of kids that, God bless them, what they go home to.
Right.
But we're also seeing the government that wants to cut programs like lunches and things of that sort. So it's multi-pronged. Where do we pick up where family starts and where the adult begins? Say, hey, you're accountable for yourself. That thing about where you were raised, I get it. It hurts. I'm your friend. I help you. But you can't carry it around like a chip on your shoulder. It gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
I can tell you, work with some of the foster care. We need to wrap up here because we're running out of time. Well, I saw some of these sanctuary, the foster, and I looked at it and I said, I could not do what you do, all right? Because I can tell you, we don't understand this, all right? This group doesn't understand. You don't understand the way some parents treat their children. And some of it's because they were abused before, right? And so they don't see it as an issue, okay? But at the same time, you would be shocked. some of the stories you hear, some of the stuff you find out about the parents, right? We're not talking about the fathers, we're talking about the parents, right? I said, I couldn't do what you do. I swear I would have shot some of these people, right? I mean, it's really, really sad. It's really distressful. It's hard, but at any rate, I need to sit down. So remember my website, www.goodgovernance.today. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, good governance today. And you can see the things that I'm talking about.
Mark, I just wanted to add, because y'all were talking about fantasy football. The thing is that there is a lot that you can do to stop and to curb these things in society, and I'll give you a very good example of something that made me very angry this weekend on television. You will see the stories, I'm sure, but you probably don't put any second thought to it. There's a conference this week here in Houston led by Andre Johnson, the football player for the, what's his name? The quarterback from the Texans, his mother. They formed an organization. They're on TV right now. They're meeting here in Houston. Now, believe it or not, this is a group of mothers of successful athletes that are now forming a group. They have a conference here in Houston. They're raising millions of dollars to help themselves deal with their successful children and all of the things they have to go through with all of the coaches calling the house and all of this. Yes, they are meeting because they want you to feel sorry for them. Their sons have just, gotten a $100 million contract, but they want you to feel sorry for them. They want you to donate to help them cope with the success of their children. Now see, that is the ridiculousness of what we live through. And if you want to know what we can do, yes, you can post on Facebook. This is ridiculous. Get $1 million from your son. Don't come asking us to give you more money to deal with success.
Yeah, it's kind of like subsidizing movies, right? I mean, you got
It doesn't help that our government was basically rewarding these men that don't want to work and just want to stay home by paying their rent, by giving them Medicaid. And part of this big, beautiful bill that President Trump passed is actually going to help in that. Because guess what? He's going to take their Medicaid away. You have to go to work now. Or you have to do some kind of community service. So hopefully we will start heading in the right direction in small steps. I want to thank some of the club, the Menudo Club and also the Cypress Republican Club. So my campaign, Ramos for Texas, actually partnered with the Katy Fire Station number 5. And we were able to drop off many supplies to the affected victims in the flood. And we were very successful. Formula, diapers, food, cleaning supplies, you name it. We collected a lot. It's already there. So I want to thank the Cypress Republican Club and also the Menudo Club for participating in those efforts. There are a few candidates here today. I didn't have this planned, but I want to give you 1 minute, Dedrick, 1 minute. 1 minute just to come up and just talk a little bit about yourself and then we'll, and yeah, so just 1 minute and we'll start with Warren. I'm actually going to stand next to them.
I've got an 18-second talk, actually. Anyway, very nice to see y'all. I spent a lot of time with the homeless, by the way, Tuesday. That's very interesting. That was an interesting walk for 3 hours of giving out donuts and talking to them. 189 years ago, Texas started. Same year, Santa Ana attacked the island. And when they set it up to where the commissioners are in charge. When I sat down with Jack Cable for lunch not too long ago, he says, you can be a spokesperson for the commissioners. When I sat down with Tom Ramsey, which I've done many meetings with, he goes, you have no power. Before I could even get settled in my seat, he goes, you have no power. So, guess what? County judge sets the agenda. And my agenda, you'll see on my cards, you've got a push card. My agenda is your agenda. I'm here simply to deliver it. That's my job. But it is your agenda. We want taxes to be removed from our senior citizens. And here's the deal. I'm not going to show up at Commissioner's Court to work with him. I'm going to show up at Commissioner's Court to set the agenda and finally create oversight. This is why you have Rodney Ellis. This is why you read the paper and you see African art or $8 million spent on lobbyists for nothing. This is why you see all of this going on. 1.9 million to a lawyer, to a public defender's office, to, defend a capital murderer. I'll stop it all. And listen, if you want to hire or you want to vote for someone who is going to work with Commissioner's Court, don't vote for me. Vote for someone else. Because that's not what I'm going to do. After 189 years, it's time, don't you think? You got a question?
I was going to say, what's your name and what are you running for?
Warren Howell for county judge.
Warren Howell.
Warren Howell for county judge? Warren Howell for county judge.
Yes, Warren Howell.
I'm just going to say, I just want to say, I'm representing Harris County Mud District 248. I want to say thank you for being our district. Thank you for supporting Mamacita. Continue what you're doing. Thank you, but also tell me congressional candidate for the 9th District as well. So again, appreciate you. And again, continue to support our district. Thank you.
What's your name?
District Wilmer.
District Wilmer.
Sure. Did you want to speak? Yeah.
Well, I'm Joe Dana, and I'm running for sheriff again, but I'm not sure when we'll run it. The scheduled election is 2028, and rumors are out there that Lena Hidalgo is going to step down, and they're going to appoint Ed Gonzalez, the current sheriff, into her position as the interim. And if that takes place, they're going to call for a special election. That will be next November, 2026. So that's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I'm waiting.
I'm here for my wife, Jessica Carrot, who's running for the First Court of Appeals, place 5. This is a court that grades the papers at the trial court. It makes sure the trial courts do their job. Votes matter. There's still a majority of Democrats in Harris County. They control the local rules. They're trying to do things to frustrate the acts that have just been passed by the legislature. My wife is the head of appeals. She's been the head of appeals, she's been in the district attorney's office for 27 years, 19 years as an appellate prosecutor. She's running for an appellate court. She's got 440 cases that she's handled in the appellate courts in Texas, all the way from the Court of Appeals to the U.S. Supreme Court. She is. She also has to do the extraordinary writs when judges refuse to rule because they don't like the results, or whenever they try to dismiss things before trial where there's no appeal. And she's had to use mandamus procedures to order the judge to do their jobs. She's had to do it more in the last 4 years than ever in her career. And she's also been involved in some of the recusals, including the 2 that were granted. Unfortunately, this 3rd one was not granted, but should have been. We're looking for support. She's running for one of the 2 Democrats left, against one of the 2 Democrats left on the First Court of Appeals. We'd love your support. If you'd like to sign the petition, if you haven't already, I've got it here.
What's your name?
My name's Kenneth Corville. My wife's Jessica Carrot. C-A-I-R-D is Jessica's.
I got her.
Yeah.
Your name is Corbin.
Yes.
And yet elections matter. We need Republicans on the courts of appeals, the Court of Criminal Appeals, the Supreme Court, and all of the local trial courts.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm Elisa Dutt. I am mayor of Piney Point, and I'm currently running for Harris County Judge. First of all, thank you so much to the Menudo Club for this great gathering. What great talks today. My story actually started many, many decades ago. My family was, my parents were in China and fled communism many decades ago, and I was actually born in Hong Kong. I came to America when I was a young child, didn't speak a word of English, but we knew this was the land of opportunity, and this is where we needed to be to get an education and be successful. My brother and I were the first to graduate college. I worked up to be a financial journalist in the beginning of my career in the early 90s, switched careers as an energy financial analyst in the mid-90s. And I think in terms of Harris County Judge, there's nothing more important than law enforcement, supporting law enforcement. We all want to raise our kids in safe neighborhoods. Second of all, emergency management. Making sure that our city and our county and our residents are safe in times of disasters. Third of all is fiscal responsibility, making sure that we balance our checkbooks and make sure that we're spending your money on the programs and items that matter. Again, Elisa Dutt, I'm running for Harris County Judge, and I thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. So now there's going to be a couple of club announcements, and I'll start with, this is not a club, but very important. If you guys haven't heard, MAGAPAC is actually launching next week on Wednesday, so if you haven't signed up already, I think it's too late to sign up, but you can still show up and they'll let you in. So anyway, MAGAPAC is launching, and it's next Wednesday, the 23rd at 6:30. Let's see. It's at the
Tanglewood Ballroom.
Tanglewood Ballroom, exactly.
5430 West.
5430 West.
With your phone number, I'll make sure you get it in.
Yes. So now we're going to have just a couple of club announcements. Cypress Republicans is actually going to have a gala this fall. So Ms. Deborah's going to talk about that real quick.
The Cypress Republicans is having their first gala in October. I know y'all want me to give you the date and the keynote speaker, but I'm not. So therefore, the tickets go on sale on Wednesday. Go to our website. You will have all of the information. Why is that important? I'm giving y'all a hookup because I'm letting you know early on. This is going to be the event of the season, and I want everybody that can attend to attend. It's going to be at the Grand Tuscany Hotel in their grand ballroom. It's the hotel that's at 290 and Paimon, which is, I don't do directions. But anyway, please look at our website on Wednesday. You'll get the information. It's going to be a black tie affair. Yes, it's going to be a black tie affair. So if you don't have a suit, Men's Warehouse and KG. And so for the ladies, Dillard's is having a heck of a sale right now. So I want you guys to go out and just make sure you look, because this is really going to be the event of the year. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Deborah. Also, Eduardo's going to talk about his next Menudo Club meeting next month.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out here for this wonderful event today. And I think this is our third month for the Northwest, right? So first of all, I want a big hand for Liz Ramos. I think many of you have already read on social media that we will soon be moving into Fort Bend County. So I'm very excited about that. And in September, our special guest will be the chairman of the Republican Party of Fort Bend County, Bob Eberly. So I'm trying to get everything coordinated, so at that time we will announce where and the first Fort Bend County Menudo Club meeting. And I want to remind everybody that on August the 2nd, for our next Menudo Club, We are honored to have Senator Mace Middleton as our special speaker, along with the Vice Chair of the Texas Republican Party, Dorinda Randall. So everyone, please put that on your calendar, the 2nd of August, and it's going to be wonderful. And again, another round of applause for Liz.
Thank you, Eduardo. Okay, so that wraps it up. Andy is actually going to be doing
My little sign here because I just got back from an opposition protest for the redistricting. Okay. Can you read?
Hold it up for pictures.
So it says, you may not like it, but you owe it to your constituents to represent them in the special session.
Show up.
Okay, so just in case you don't know, the 5 districts that are being redistricted are in SD 13, which is my Senate district. And if you look, it's real hard to see in the little big picture here, but this is me right here. See that blue? Feel that blue? That's me. Okay? That's what I have to fight for. Wow. Whenever I speak, it is only to ask you to come out, show up, always represent us. We are conservatism, we are family, we are faith. We are working strongly on the east side of my district. Okay? We are not, unfortunately, all of us red people. So we have to understand that our candidates are not going to necessarily be people who have R next to them, okay? We are asking for representatives who can bring in from the other side. We just don't have the reds to win, okay? So we've got to be able to pull from the community and say, come on over, we want you. We love you. We want to be out in the community. We want all of the people who maybe don't look like us or are different from us, okay, to join us. Come be red. Come hear what our message is. And that's what we want to do, is get our message out. So please support us, please. Our candidates are all going to be out there trying to bring in new people. Please support them. Please vet them. Don't just hear, oh, they didn't vote red, or maybe in the past they weren't as red as you. Please support them. Thank you. Thank you.
Little short mini videos at the end on just on your experience with the Saturday Menudo Club. So stick around, and Andy's going to be doing a little bit of filming at the end. Thank you, guys.
Are you a leader hungry for meaningful discussions and real solutions? Then the Saturday Menudo Club is calling your name. Join us every first Saturday of the month from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at various restaurants in Houston, where leaders in our community gather over delicious menudo and Mexican food. It's not just about the food, it's about the people who add flavor to the dialogue. We address crucial issues like education, commerce, government waste, family concerns, faith, crime, homelessness, and making a difference. Our gatherings feature renowned speakers who inspire us to take action, and every event is recorded for our YouTube channel and website. Get ready, the Saturday Menudo Club is coming to a restaurant near you. Connect with like-minded leaders, exchange ideas, and work together towards a brighter future. Visit SaturdayMenudoClub.com to join the club today. Remember, it's not just a meal, it's a media experience for leaders. Stay hungry, my friends.
1, 2, 3.
Ya no más!